Evening all, welcome back to Game of Thrones mod on something about something. So let's go and kick the crap out of somebody. Right, this is 138 gallant, brave Longshlonian knights. You see what I did there? Longshlonian. Anyway, they're taking on 238 foul, filthy, dirty bastards from the north. So this is going to be interesting. Now, again, this game has got a whole ream of tactics. Seriously, I'm just literally YOLOing into them because I know how to play the game. Look at that! I just took that guy out like a fool. So their infantry, I've got to be very careful of the knights. But look at that, there's quite a lot of their dudes on horseback. But interestingly enough, they have not built a formation. They have all just rushed me in some weird kind of let's go get him kind of way, which is fascinating. I don't know if that's programmed or meant to do that, but usually when you fight, particularly when you fight dudes from the south, particularly those flower guys, they seem to, you know who I'm talking about, they seem to always form up into a nice little formation and they kind of charge and blah, blah, blah. And my roving band of Longshlonians are basically, they're kind of just like the north. They would just rush in because most of my guys are knights and I'm training all of them up to be knights. And again, the way the game works is a lovely progression for all your characters. All of your NPCs, all of your dudes you have at your army can level up, every single one of them, even personal characters. So you have you then have your personal characters. These are people from the game, named people. Of which there's hundreds, and then you have your army, your knights and so on, and your foot soldiers and can be then leveled up into certain trees. Okay, so that's pretty much the subtext. And I'm just putting all of them as knights. It means it's very difficult to kind of siege castles, but we don't do a lot of that. Sieging castles is incredibly costly all around, so we generally avoid doing that. But as you can see, look at this, 238 men of the north are being slaughtered. It is like some sort of red wedding, where they've got all drunk and they've been stomped. You know what I mean? But if you haven't read the book, you probably have no idea what I'm on about. Or if you haven't seen the much acclaimed HBO series, again, you're probably saying, what? This is a game based upon a series of books. I shouldn't even have to say that. So let's talk about the series. Hopefully you are all fans of it and you're watching it. I like Game of Thrones, but only because it's kind of bridging the gap between Shakespearean plays, which are all kind of like this. It's all about the wars of, the medieval times and so on. And they're all really well written. It's all good stuff. But people avoid it because, hey, it's Shakespeare and you learn that at school and that's got to be massively nerdy, right? Well, Game of Thrones is just a little bit of fantasy sprinkled on top of something like Shakespeare. So to me, I quite like it because it's making, dare I say, popular culture accepting of the old, Shakespearean sonnets and plays, which, again, does me no favours because people just think that's massively nerd-like. But when you look at things like Henry IV and you look at things like well, I'm not. Do you know what? I'm going to avoid it. Because some of these things, I think, just people get a bit. It's a bit much. I know. I'll stop. But I think Game of Thrones brings that almost that whole kind of era of the Dark Ages into a fantasy environment. And now, obviously, because it's a series of books that's been turned into a very successful HBO thingamajig, people seem to be loving it. Look at that, 331 versus my 132. Now this is where the game really kicks in because I'm not cheating. Chill out, I'm not cheating. I just have better troops than them. So you see here, we're actually going to organize properly into a charging line. Look at this mighty Longshlonian horde we have assembled. All these lovely Longschlongs in front of me. Okay. So as we build our line, you see our enemy here are actually trying to form lines as well. This is to defend against charges. This is to put their archers into range of me and so on. But we're not going to bother with that. Most of my army is green and they are cavalry, and we are going for them. It is absolutely YOLO time, and we're fighting towards the end of the day, which is not the best time for light. But as we charge through these foolish archers, we chop them down one by one, and the horse runs a lot of them over. Look at that guy, I got him in the face. Oh, face. Dude, this is brilliant. This is just such a fun game. I can't stress to you enough. It is just amazing. I don't think any other game has ever come close to a proper battlefield simulator like this from the times of old. The game is just well written. It's great stuff. And it is, again, it's an older game, but it means it will run on any computer as well, which is a very nice thing to bear in mind because you can get a modding mod for it, effectively. which ups the game's original level. So originally it was designed to say, well, back then in the day, computers could handle maybe, I don't know, 200 men fighting. Now, because computers are ridiculously fast, you can handle 1,000 men fighting. So what you're seeing here is probably about 400, maybe. I've set a max of about, I think it's maybe a bit less, maybe it's 300. But if I had a good PC that wasn't linked to a mouse wheel, I probably would be able to run 1,000 v 1,000 fight in this game. This is where old games should not be disregarded. Plus, when you think about it, this is the only Game of Thrones game that's actually any good. All of the other Game of Thrones games are awful. I tried that RPG one, and I remember being so disappointed I had to step away from the machine and scream into a pillow because it was so bad. So yeah, I think this is probably one of the only ones I would say is any good. It's because it's a sandbox. You can go and you can go and siege King's Landing if you so wish, and you'll have to have a bloody lot of men because they have thousands of defending soldiers. But it's just so much fun, and I just think more games need to have this kind of sandbox element where you can just go about and piss about and arse about and have a bit of fun. And you can start wars. Literally, we were allied to the north. I think currently I'm running for the Stormlands. I want to say. I think I'm running for the Stormlands. I could be wrong, but I've allegianced myself to them. Eventually, I'm going to just break away and claim myself as king of the middle. I'm just going to claim the middle of Westeros as mine. Because I know that anybody daring to come attack me, I can just pretty much stomp into the floor. Now, what I can't stop is if they bought 5 or 6 armies of 200 people, because they would wear me down. Every match, you see at the end of this match, you do have people like, I've got 7 wounded and I actually lost 5 dudes, whereas they lost 275, but they had 50 wounded. And as they try and escape, there's like a band of 10 dudes that we can then run down because we're faster than them. So the game gives you this ability to slaughter, I say. And I think that's quite a nice feature as well. But in essence, the game does give you this ability to do pretty much what the F you want. And I think, as you can see, look, you can do these kind of slicing movements. So only in open ground, only in kind of these kind of fights away from rivers, away from forests, am I powerful. So this is why, I'm not godlike in this game, although I'm powerful because I've built a very strong group of fighters. I would still have a bad time if an army kept coming at me because it would wear me down. So basically it becomes a war of attrition because I don't have the troop refreshing capability they do. So that's really nice. So I just heartily recommend this mod. I think it's brilliant. I think it's, again, taking the old adage that I make, which is how much are you entertained for how many dollars expenditure? And for this game cost me £5. Okay, I got the Napoleonic War add-on, which wasn't great, but it at least brought flintlocks and guns into it, which was nice. But it did give something. But this game was a £5, and I must have played it for days and days and days. And I think that's the beauty of a game, when a game really does, continue to give you entertainment, and yet it's just for free. That's got to be good, isn't it? And the mod's entirely free. You don't pay anything for it, and it is entirely linked to the Game of Thrones, story. I would get it while you can, because I think eventually they're going to ban this game. I think that the Game of Thrones people know about it. Loads of YouTube videos on it, and I think already they're going to start banning it. So I would recommend you get it while you can, because I think eventually they're just going to say this is copyright infringement. Stop it. Which is a shame, because it is such a good effing game. And I think there's just so many, kind of very poor imitation games out there trying to kind of cash in on the genre of Game of Thrones, yet missing the whole point of it. In this game, you can backstab, you can steal, you can lie, you can cheat, you can murder, you can pillage, you can go into villages and just literally, horrendously treat the villages and destroy the village entirely. And that's the fun part of it, because there's no allegiance. It's basically you play the game you want to play. Now, how many games out there can do that to this level? Crusader Kings 2? Maybe. But even then, it doesn't have a very good... It doesn't have the good combat piece, and I love the combat piece of this so much. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.